Pakistan led Iran to finally find a way to counteract the artificial intelligence generated killing of their top leadership. I'm sure many of you will draw your own conclusions just based on this sentence.
Today is June 24, and we have a special edition of Transition Protocol because we have something very significant to talk about. And to talk about the very significant events of the last few months that have resulted in very significant developments in West Asia, I have my very good friends, Larry Johnson and Pepe Escobar. Please, if you like what we are doing, to support us, kindly subscribe. It goes a long way to make this possible. Now to Larry Johnson.
Yeah, this I have to do all this tremendous burden of work having to talk to Pepe. Man, the times that Pepe and I have been chasing each other around because we just like to sit down and talk and be able to share with you what's going on. If you would have put asked us 2 months ago, could you believe that Pakistan would be playing the leading role in brokering an end to the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran? We were going, oh, what? Okay, we're going to have to do a drug test now to see if you have any illegal substances in your body for saying such a thing. But in fact, that's what it's turned out to be. That Pakistan, working behind the scenes with the full encouragement and support of China, and it is that entire relationship that I think is not fully understood or appreciated in the West. Um, have made tremendous inroads, not just on the diplomatic front, but also on the military front, also on the intelligence front. So for example, it was just reported by CNN yesterday about the jellyfish drones that the pilot, the number two guy who was the backseater in the F-15 that was shot down in Iran, south of Isfahan, about 2 months ago, that he reported seeing these drones that were moving in coordination and played a role, I guess, in downing the aircraft. Well, what country in the world is known for doing that? Oh, that would be called China. Anybody that's ever watched any of their, New Year celebrations, they both the Western New Year and Chinese New Year, they have this incredible display of drones all moving in concert and operating.
Over a
Uh,
thousand drones moving in sync.
yeah, so they've perfected that technology. They brought that to the battlefield. They brought to the battlefield for Iran missiles that have been used against U.S. sensitive U.S. installations, destroying those. So China is playing a role behind the scenes, and the front people for this are the government of Pakistan, Prime Minister Sharif, but most important, General Munir. And those of you listening, we recognize there are issues that some people recognize that Munir and Imad Khan, it is what it is. And so we're not here to meddle into the internal affairs of Pakistan. Pepe and I both believe it's just like with a couple that's getting on in a bad marriage. You don't get in the middle of that. You let them sort it out. It's not for us to sort out. We're just reporting what's going on. But what we're seeing right now, and it was demonstrated last Sunday, was so important on two fronts. One, the brokering of the meeting between the United States and Iran, in which actual progress was made despite the offensive, obscene remarks and threats from Donald Trump. But at the same time, meeting in Cairo, again, brought together by the government of Pakistan, this time with the Pakistani foreign minister, the foreign ministers of Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, that they are all coming together to recognize this new security architecture that Vladimir Putin talked to Foreign Minister Arachi of Iran about 2 months ago. And
Mhm.
then a week later, Arachi's in China, in Beijing talking with Wang Yi, the foreign minister, and he says a new security architecture. So clearly, this is an extension of what Russia and China have been working behind the scenes. Pakistan turns out to be the front man for this, and they what we're witnessing right now. We can't emphasize this enough. We are witnessing a historic change in the world order. You may not fully appreciate what's taking place, but it is significant, and it's happening in front of our eyes.
Absolutely, Larry. And the connection with what Russia and China were discussing and had been planning for the whole of Eurasia, now we are watching it happening in real time in this West Asia South Asia connection, which is Pakistan as one of the key South Asian nations, providing the possible security umbrella and the new security architecture for most of West Asia, at least most of the GCC. The UAE is out of the picture at the moment because from the beginning they bet on the wrong horse. So we have now in sync these four initial Sunni nations, which first met in Islamabad. That was right at the beginning, before even the possibility of a meeting in Islamabad, where we had Galibaf on one side and J.D. Vance on the other side. This was
Mhm.
the first meeting where we had this quartet: Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt. The next day, Pakistan's foreign minister, he boarded a plane to Beijing to explain what happened to Wang Yi. And the Chinese, of course, they started coordinating in the background. Okay, guys, you have to dig a little deeper. That's not enough. And the product of all that was the first Islamabad meeting, which, as we all know, was derailed at the end. But that opened the path for the possibility of a next meeting. It would be in Geneva. In the end, turned out to be Burgenstock this past weekend. And everything mediated by Pakistan with help from Qatar. They were working on two different fronts. Pakistan was working on the political military front, and Qatar was working on the money front because the famous 6 billion, then $12 billion of Iranian frozen funds, they are in Qatari banks. So that's where Qatar comes in. And of course, behind of that, the Chinese, without saying a word, without lifting a finger, just watching the river flow, observing everything, because this was part of their strategic relationship with both Pakistan and Iran. That's where the new Silk Roads Belt and Road Initiative comes in. These are
Yeah.
two essential partners of the overarching concept of Chinese foreign policy for the 21st century, which is let's trade with everybody. This is what the BRI is all about. And it's no wonder that for most nations in the world, China is the number one partner. For the 10 nations in Southeast Asia, where I spend a lot of time in my life, all of them, their number one trade partner is China. China is one of the top trade partners of everybody in Central Asia, one of the key partners of Iran. He has a strategic relationship with Iran as much as he has a strategic relationship with Pakistan. So, what Larry just announced correctly as a complete geopolitical turnaround in West Asia, it's included in the big turnaround in Eurasia, in a crucial area of Eurasia where until 3 months ago we thought that, you know, that's it. The game is set. The US is going to control this forever. No, not at all. And this is one of the absolute key results of the war, which we have to repeat it over and over again. It was a major strategic defeat of the United States because they never had not even a plan B or C. They never had a plan A to start with.
Yeah.
And Larry can talk about this for hours, right? So now we are reaping the results, and West Asia is reaping these results. So what we saw in Burgenstock and what we're going to see this Thursday or Friday, when the Prime Minister of Pakistan and General Munir are flying to Riyadh to meet MBS face to face, and to go to the next stage of their military pact, which is essentially, okay, guys, now you're going to run the security umbrella for West Asia for us, Saudi Arabia, and for other GCC members that may be interested. Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, they're going to wake up, but it's going to take a few months. And of course, this is not antagonistic to Iran because this has been already discussed with Iran. Because Pakistan is the mediator for Iran, trustworthy. The fact that President Pezeshkian earlier this week, his first foreign trip since the start of the war on February 28th, was not to a neutral European capital. It was not to Beijing. It was to Islamabad, where Mr. Zikan tells us how he was received as a hero, as a brother, as one of us. It's not only the gun salutes at the airport, the jets flying overhead, the Sharif reception, etc. It's the way he was treated and the way he had uh, bilaterals and multilateral meetings in Islamabad discussing everything, including the very, very important angle for Pakistan. Finally, one of the big soap operas of what I called years ago Pipelinistan, which is it's an evolving soap opera. The Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline. Finally, we have everything in place for this pipeline to finally be concluded, and Pakistan needs it. It's pipelines are usual steel umbilical cords between nations. So, in terms of a peace dividend of a pipeline linking nations, this is practically unbeatable. And this is part of. So, it's not only about security; it's about energy, and it's about ramifications of the new Silk Road in Pakistan, where they are part of one of the top New Silk Road projects, the China Pakistan Economic Corridor, but for Iran as well, because we have, for instance, the China Iran Railway, which was built by the
Right.
Chinese, paid by the Chinese, and it's an overland connectivity corridor between Iran and China via Central Asia. But now Iran can also have Pakistan as a connectivity corridor to China. And what we were discussing about Chabahar a few minutes ago, Larry, one of the most fascinating aspects of what happened this past 3 months, when Gwadar, the port in the Arabian Sea in Pakistani Balochistan, which is only 80 kilometers away from Chabahar, which is in Iran, in Sistan Balochistan. I was there last year when we were shooting our
Right.
documentary
Right.
on the International North South Transportation Corridor. And the authorities in the port of Chabahar, they were showing me everything around. They said, you see those cranes over there? So these were brought by Indians, for instance. India's very much present. They invested over here. And then I looked around and I saw two Chinese tankers in the area. And I asked, so, but the Chinese are coming here as well. I said, yes, they prefer to go to Bandar Abbas, the big port in the Persian Gulf. But they're also coming here. So sooner or later, we're gonna have more Chinese cargo landing in Chabahar, and even more Chinese investment in Chabahar, which in for the Iranians they want to turn into a sort of replica of Shenzhen in China. It's the same principle: free port, free zone, and we can trade with everybody. So all this after the end, I wouldn't say the end. Let's say after the. I think Larry could correct me. After the current pause, which is the
Yeah.
MOU, right? The current pause. We never know where this is going to lead. But the geoeconomic interaction between Iran, Pakistan, and China is can grow, infinitely. And of course, later on a second and third stage, investment by GCC players, especially Saudi Arabia, for instance, inside Iran as well. And all of that brokered by Pakistan. So, what we are seeing is an interconnection of all these key players from West Asia to South Asia that we could not even imagine 3 months
Right.
ago.
Right. Yeah. The other thing to be aware of is, if you listen, if you're watching in the West Fox News and you're listening to Donald Trump, boy, he's got everything. He's got the Iranians uh, in a chokehold that they have no other option but to obey the United States, and that oil is just flowing out of the Persian Gulf. All of that's a lie.
Yes.
You know, there are a couple of different programs online that you can look at. One's called marinetraffic.com, and you go to marinetraffic.com and it shows you actually what ships are there, what's moving, and where they're going. And what's fascinating is uh, the ships. There are very few ships moving into the Persian Gulf. Number one,
Hmm.
there are probably 12 ships moving out of the Persian Gulf, and they're headed to China,
China.
Singapore,
Exactly.
uh,
Southeast Asia,
and
China.
India. Yeah, so it's Asia. Now, the rest of the Southeast Asian countries are still hurting very badly. Now, so that's number one. Trump claims that 19 million barrels of oil have flowed out. He's trying. Trump has an oil problem, and that oil problem can be defined as a choice between making diesel fuel and making aviation fuel. The heavy crude that comes out of the Persian Gulf, that the disruption of that 20% of the world's supply has had a dramatic effect across the globe in reducing the amount of fuel available to make diesel and aviation fuel. Now, if we go back before February 28th, before the start of the Ramadan war, at that point, you would say we had A level of demand for diesel around the world, and we had B level of demand for aviation fuel. When the refineries get a barrel of oil, they don't sit there and say, okay, we're going to make 60% diesel and 40% aviation. No, they have to make a choice. They make either diesel or they make aviation. It's not both together. So they try to meet with those demands and keep that steady. When the war happened, all of a sudden it dramatically spiked the need for aviation fuel, and the intense use of that fuel over the ensuing 40 45 days, actually, for it really went on for about 4 months.
Hmm.
That jumped the demand. And meanwhile, in the West, particularly in the United States, they started draining their strategic petroleum reserves. I've been told by an energy expert that I respect that the United States has 2 weeks of supply left. And at that point, the United States consumers are going to be hit with a choice between either there's going to be less diesel available for big trucks to drive and deliver food to grocery stores, or there's going to be less aviation fuel for civil airliners. That it's not there is not enough oil on the high seas right
On the
now
high seas. Exactly.
that can be delivered to refineries and then refined in a sufficient time to produce the needed either diesel or aviation fuel. So this is one of those dramatic things that's behind the scenes that Donald Trump has no control over. And even if there were all of these ships flooding into the Persian Gulf, it's not going to change a thing. The other thing to remember is that there's a obstacle. All those ships that have been sitting idle for 4 months, they're no longer ready to just be filled up with oil and sell out. They're going to require some maintenance and some attention to detail to get them ready to go again. And then on top of that, one of the reasons you don't see a lot of ships flowing in there, the insurance question. As long
Hmm.
as there's the threat of mines, and the U.S. Department of War said it's going to take up to 6 months to remove those mines, the insurance companies like Lloyd's of London aren't going to insure ships to travel through those waters. So this is one of those background dynamics where Iran is actually still in control of the situation.
Mr. Z.
Uh, I would like, at this point, this is a good juncture for either of you. Maybe Pepe, you should be the one doing that. Provide a context to how Iran ended up becoming a net security provider to Iran at the outside of the war, when Iran was being hit day and night.
Well, it's we have come across with an extremely sensitive piece of information, which prevents us from giving you all the technological details of what's really going on. So we're going to use a Chinese way of announcing it, which is we can use metaphors, we can use images, figures of speech, or dissimulation, or being quite cryptic. But essentially, Pakistan led Iran to finally find a way to counteract the artificial intelligence generated killing of their top leadership. I'm sure many of you will draw your own conclusions just based on this sentence. And the repercussions are immense. Yes, this is linked to Chinese technological breakthroughs. Yes, this is linked to Pakistani technological breakthroughs, that something that they have for the at least for the past 2 years in a technological center based in Islamabad. And this was transferred to the Iranian leadership immediately after the assassination of Ali Larijani, which at the time, Larijani at the time, he was the Secretary General of the Supreme National Security Council of Iran, but he was the top de facto authority in Iran at the time, apart from leader Moshtaba Khamenei, who was still recovering from the serious wounds that he received on February 28th. So one thing that you can see, and you can look at the record, and you can confront that everywhere. Immediately after the assassination of Ali Larijani, the targeted assassinations against the Iranian leadership simply vanished. And that's the definitive proof that the technological savoir faire that Islamabad transferred to Tehran is immensely effective, and generated, of course, an enormous extra problem, not only for Israel, but also for
Yes.
the US. So, of course, you can fill in the blanks on all the names, all the companies, all the AI intelligence involved. But this is as far as I would say that at the moment we have to be very careful with this immensely explosive piece of information. But this was confirmed directly and explains to all of you everywhere why President Pezeshkian was received with so much grace and as literally a brother in Islamabad earlier this week, and why the Iranian leadership chose in their first trip abroad to go to Islamabad and not anywhere else, including China. So, this is a big, big, big statement. And all that is interconnected. It's a degree of trust between Islamabad and Tehran, which once again, and I think Mr. Z and Larry would agree, we could not even imagine 3 months ago.
Right. Right. Well, in fact, there's I respect the work that Jeremy Scahill does at Dropsite News. They do a lot of good work, but they did come out and report in the a few days ago that it is actually Qatar that is running the show. That Qatar is the one in the lead, and that's just absolutely not true. Um,
Totally nonsense.
yeah, Qatar is actually, I will say, favorably disposed towards Iran. Uh, in terms of, it was Iran, they came to their aid back in 2017 when the Saudis and the Emiratis were both trying to isolate and attack the Qataris. So the Israelis actually were found themselves up against the fact that Iran was backing Qatar. The Qatar was not isolated as it had been presented. Um, but Qatar is playing a role in conjunction, in, let's call it, in collaboration with, or as a junior partner to Pakistan in this effort, because on Sunday, when Donald Trump was insisting that Pakistan, that Iran would not get a single dime, despite the fact that they were supposed to have frozen assets unfrozen, that Iran would have to buy U.S. products, and that was the United States was going to control every dime. The Saudis and then the Qataris both agreed that the 12 that they would basically front the $12 billion, that Qatar would not, that the Iranians would not have to wait for the United States go begging for the U.S. to give them what is in fact
Their own money.
their own money. Yeah, it's their own money. They're not asking for a handout. They want their own money back. Give it back. You stole it, and so this is Qatar played an important role in that. It was interesting the other day too. We all saw the video where the Qatari foreign minister, when he was in, warmly greeted by Prime Minister Sharif of Pakistan, also warmly greeted by General Munir, and ignored JD Vance.
Completely
But
ignored.
but later, a very sheepish foreign minister of Qatar was saying, "Oh, no, that wasn't intentional. That was just, oh no, we'd had warm talks. And, they're trying to put some lipstick on that pig." But the fact of the matter was, it was a way to send a message, not too subtle, I might add, but I think it was effectively communicated, so that the United States knows that the era of threatening and bullying these Gulf states is over.
Mr. Z?
Uh, I cannot overemphasize what has come out of your mouth. I cannot overemphasize. You have done a marvelous job of explaining, and people can fill in the blanks. Those blanks are left intentionally blank so that you can provide your
Intentionally.
own fill into it. I will say one thing which might be just contextual. Please understand that prior to this war, Iran and Pakistan were not really good friends. There was a lot of terrorist activity on the border,
Mhm.
and Pakistan had made many complaints to Iran, and Iran had not taken the appropriate action according to Pakistan. We all saw what happened when the war erupted. All of the world saw it. Decapitation, which the Israelis like to do all the time and are proud of it. They think this is their number one great technical skill: kill everybody. And that happened. And then Ali Larijani got killed in the house of his daughter while he was breaking fast. His son got killed. His chief of staff got killed. Pakistan made an offer to Iran to help with this matter because Pakistan has in Islamabad developed by the highest levels of Chinese assistance, a center of technology as excellence. They developed their own technology, and they said, "We are happy to help. Please let us help you." And the world has changed after that. Not one single Iranian leader has been killed since that happened. Not one. And the people who have the ability to make connections can make their own connection as to why that happened and why Iran embraced Pakistan ever so tightly after that. So I will let you do the final call. Pepe, you are the world trotter.
No, no, come on, not final call. Okay, very, very important. Pay attention to what's going to happen in Riyadh Thursday and Friday with the Pakistani official visit to MBS. And pay attention to MBS decisions. So, depending on what emerges from this visit, then we this boat, in fact, this super fast boat of the new security architecture in West Asia will be sailing smoothly from now on.
I will make one additional comment if you allow me,
Yes,
because
yes.
I've spent my entire life dealing with the post Bretton Woods architecture. My entire life has been spent in that arena, and I know quite a bit about it. The petrodollar, I saw it firsthand being set up by Bill Simon, Treasury Secretary, and Kissinger, who, contrary to everything that he said, asked King Faisal to raise the price of oil, not bring it down. The realm of the petrodollar is coming to an end. Let us announce it loudly and clearly on this channel. The petrodollar realm is coming to an end. 5 years from today, it will be at least half of what it is today, and 10 years from today, it will be gone. And then people who have some wisdom can figure out how the US is going to finance its $40 trillion of debt.
Yeah, and well, in fact, let me give a challenge out there if you're for those of you watching or listening. Yeah, take your favorite AI engine, whether it's Chat GPT or Grok or Claude, and you're going to ask them an economic question relative to the Middle East and oil and that situation with OPEC is an example. And what you'll find is this built-in bias, this assumption in those engines that the petrodollar is solid, that it is invulnerable to any kind of outside influence, and that it is a firm reality. And then go back and start pointing out the anomalies where that is absolutely not true anymore. And well, there's nothing more entertaining than to get the so-called artificial intelligence having to admit that it's not so intelligent.
It all depends on the intelligent man who wrote the code, which
Yeah.
may not be so intelligent.
Yeah.
Well, this is a real significant, earth-shaking, tectonic shift taking place right now.
Yes. No. Absolutely. And that's why we can't emphasize it enough that we are witnessing history being made in the same way that in the immediate aftermath of World War II and the Bretton Woods conference that took place up in New Hampshire, and the decisions being made for creating what was then a new global economic infrastructure. And then in 1972, a quick revision going from the gold standard to the petrodollar. And that petrodollar era, it's lasted 53 years. But now
Mhm.
we're on the cusp of something brand new. This war that the United States unleashed on Iran, ironically, just as the West provoking Russia into the special military operation in 2022, has set in motion and accelerated the development of, of, of new architecture, new systems that are in place to facilitate global trade. So, like right now, the bulk of the oil that's flowing out of the Persian Gulf is Iranian oil, and
Mhm.
it's going to primarily China. And Iran's not paying for the it's not a matter of buying dollars to purchase or sell that oil. It's happening with Chinese yuan. It's happening through the Chinese system called CIPS, the cross interbank payment system, and it is completely outside the control of the United States.
And this is one of the direct consequences of the war, Larry. This was a war, among other things, to protect the petrodollar and ended up accelerating the future of the petro yuan.
Yeah,
It's one
yeah.
of those wonderful historical ironies. It's happening in front of us. That's the difference.
Yeah, it reminds me of the end of that movie, The Hunt. I always do movie references, but The Hunt for Red October, where you had
Mm.
the Russian, the Soviet sub chasing the Sean Connery sub. And,
Yes.
and he fires. They say, okay, we got to put the torpedo so they don't have any delay. Just put it on. And they fire the torpedo, and the torpedo ended up coming back and killing themselves. That is
There you-
that's the metaphor for what's happening to the
That's
West.
the metaphor for what we're watching now. Absolutely.
Yes,
Oh,
and I want to make a plug for our show, if you don't mind.
yes.
We
Yeah.
set this up primarily to provide very, very high quality information that is sourced impeccably and delivered to you by people who have 30, 40 years of your trust, namely Pepe Escobar and Larry Johnson and Vijay Prasad on Thursday, Fadi Lama, who is a Lebanese who has been doing this all his life, and maybe there will be one or two others. The entire purpose of this podcast, this show, is to provide you information that you will not get any place in the world, not on BBC, not on CNN, not in New York Times, but it is impeccably sourced and delivered to you without varnish. So
Yeah.
kindly subscribe, kindly like it, and share it so that we can continue doing this.
Yep. This will
Thank
be
you,
must
everybody.
must watch television every week. Thanks so much, Z-Man.
Yes, we are scheduled to have Larry on Monday, every Monday at what time is it, Larry?
Well, you and I, we do it at 2, but it's recorded and it's put out by 4 p.m. Eastern, which hey, we're going global with this, so you'll get to watch it at some point in your time zone.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it is going global with 10 languages within a week or so. And Pepe Escobar is on every Tuesday
Every Tuesday.
around Paris time,
9 p.m. Europe, Central Europe.
and on
And on
Wednesdays,
Wednesdays, the three of us.
yes. And we will keep doing this as long as we have something very significant that we believe you must know.
Great. Thanks
So
for
thank
watching.
you very much. Thank you very much for watching. We
Thanks,
will
everybody.
see you
Cheers.
again, all of us, next week. And tomorrow you can see Vijay Prasad, who has his own perspective because he's a globetrotter also. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.